Director Edwards,
Present.
Secretary Taylor,
Present.
Director Davis Day, Director Humphrey,
Present.
Vice President Pearson,
Present.
and President Dr. Petty.
Here.
Dr. Petty, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Would you please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, Madam Secretary, would you please entertain us with the board norms? Madam
Yes,
Vice
sir.
President.
Yes, sir. Okay.
That you do, boy.
You said secretary.
Yeah. Madam Vice President.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We use facts and data to inform our decisions in accordance with the interests of the overall district as a whole and not any particular segment thereof. We will support the delegation of authority of the superintendent in the day-to-day district operations and act in accordance with the 6 governing documents. We support the board decisions. We come to the board meetings informed and prepared. We honor our elected roles by being in attendance. We will honor our voices by encouraging individual input and listening to others.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. At this time, we are at agenda item 4, which is our public comment section. Officer Campbell, please come forward.
Okay, Doc, calm down.
Chief Campbell.
Mr. President, members of the board, superintendent, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for attending tonight's Normandy Schools Collaborative Board of Education meeting. Before we begin, we will review the importance of conducting an orderly and productive meeting. For those community members in attendance who have signed up for public comments, please come to the podium when the board president calls your name. Out of respect for everyone in attendance, yelling, foul language, props, visuals, and addressing the audience are not permitted. Public speakers may not identify staff or students by name. In addition, audience members are not allowed to speak, yell, or cause any disruption during public comments. This ensures the Board of Education is able to listen and transition to the next speaker. The remainder of the meeting is designated for the board to work with the superintendent and staff to conduct the work outlined in the agenda. Patrons who stay in attendance for the remainder of the meeting after public comments do so in an observatory role. Please note that those who disrupt the meeting in any capacity will be asked to leave and may lose the opportunity to attend future meetings. We want to thank you again for attending, and now we will proceed with the agenda.
There are no public comments this evening. If there are no public comments this evening, the board does wish to recognize the group of former employees and Normandy School District alumni who are in support of our beloved Coach O and the naming of the track in her honor. I want to state that this is something that has come before the board, and I have spoken with the members of the board, and we're diligently considering this, and I wanted to make sure that we responded to those individuals saying that we have received the letter of recommendation from the president of the Alumni Association, Mrs. Nakia Watts. I understand that there is support from the 24 Municipal One Partnership as well. At this time, the board will begin to establish the committee that will further look into that matter and take it through the final stages of the process. I do also want to say on behalf of the board that the board has asked that we as a body look at the entire new facility at the high school and discuss as a board and with the superintendent and with the community, do we want to name the facility? Do we want to name the track? Do we want to name the football field? Maybe we don't name any of them. Maybe we name them individually, but that's a discussion that we'd like to have a deeper dive with an organized process that will engage all of the stakeholders as well. I see Mr. Austin is walking in. We're glad to see him here as well tonight. And so at this point, I wanted to make sure that we responded as a board. That's where we are with that in that process. Are there any other comments from my fellow board colleagues with regard to this matter or the superintendent?
I would like to say something. I'm in agreement with President Dr. Petty. I feel that we should get this ball rolling to get the facility named in whatever path that we agree to go on with the community, even the students and staff and board.
Dr. Triplett? Thank you. If there's nothing else with regard to this matter, we thank you for entertaining the public comment section of this meeting. We'll go now to item number 5, recognition. Our very own Chris Trahan, the District Communications Director, will come forward.
Good evening, Board President Dr. Petty, Superintendent Triplett, members of the community, and other board members. At this time, we'd like to recognize Dr. Keisha Bird. She is the Jobs for America's Graduates Coordinator at Normandy High School. She was recently honored as an education honoree at the Holiday Joy and Jazz Celebration hosted by Charles E. Fleming Legacy Foundation. She was recognized for her leadership and commitment to preparing students for successful careers. The Charles E. Fleming Legacy Foundation preserves and promotes the impactful contributions of Charles E. Fleming in architecture, engineering, construction management, and related fields, and supports students pursuing degrees in architecture, engineering, STEM, construction management, and related fields through its scholarship program. This recognition aligns with policy GCL and supports the superintendent's goal number 2, culture and climate.
Keisha Bird, everybody.
You're welcome.
Congratulations again, Dr. Bird, a very well-deserved honor. All right, we're moving right along with the agenda for tonight's meeting. We're at item number 6, the superintendent's report and items for information. Superintendent Dr. Triplett.
First item is the 6.1 strategic plan presentation update.
We have the strategic plan presentation coming forward. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Wasn't sure if you were going to cue me up any more than that or not. Here we go.
I was at the different, I'm gonna have a drum roll, but.
I'm Mary Hendricks Harris, and I have had the joy of supporting the district in facilitating the next strategic plan. I've been asked to share just briefly tonight a little bit about where we have been and where we're going. So as many of the people in the room know, the purpose of a CSIP, or a strategic plan, is to set a roadmap for the next 3 to 5 years. We're very conscious of making sure that we're aligned with the state in regards to MSIP indicators, aligning with some of the board values and norms. We guarantee a very data-driven process, and we're focusing not only on students and achievement, but well-being of students, staff, and community. The approach we're using is very collaborative and inclusive by nature. My goal is by the end of the plan that everybody who wanted to have a voice in the plan had an opportunity to have their voice heard. Again, as I shared, we are very focused on data. So the last meeting we had, we spent a lot of time talking about district data over the course of years to look at not only most recent, but trends. We will be looking at strengths. So even though the plan oftentimes focuses on deficits, At times, there are groups that decide we have some strengths that we need to continue to work on or protect over the next 3 to 5 years. And when the plan is done, what you will have is you'll see the data that we looked at, you'll see the input from the stakeholders that we've involved. Most importantly, you will have clear goals and priority areas and metrics to measure. And my goal is that you would not just have annual metrics, that's kind of what happens in many districts, but that we will identify some metrics that we can check in along the way. So quarterly reports, monthly reports on at least aspects of the plan. Our goal is also to keep the mission and vision at the center of the plan. Oftentimes when I'm working with boards, they want to know what's all this input, how are you getting that? So moving forward, district leaders will be the communicators of the plan. It's very important as an outside facilitator that I don't own the plan. I'm facilitating conversations and making sure that you have a strong product in the end. We'll be providing updates on the website. The steering committee has been meeting for, I believe, 4 months. I know we've got several members in the audience today. And the steering committee is made up of a variety of stakeholders. We will be doing surveys. We will have staff and public forum moving forward in January. And I think that's about the input. As far as the steering committee work to date, it's going slower than it typically goes. However, the group is doing a very thorough and intentional job. So if this is the work of the steering committee that you see on the slide, so far, what we've accomplished is we've clarified a mission and a vision, and we've established values and operationalized them. So operationalizing values means we made our commitments to what each value means. We are in the process, we just reviewed some data, we'll continue to review data, and then our next step, and I'll show you a timeline here in a minute, will be to get input from staff and from the community. And after we get that input, we will break off into priority areas or subcommittees, if you will, that will then write goals, action steps, and determine metrics. The determining of metrics will allow you to monitor the plan once the plan is written. So you will, again, you'll have the needs assessment. I facilitated the steering committee meetings. You'll have a final document that it will be designed by a graphic artist at EdPlus and a metrics aligned to that document. Our goal, as I've kind of talked a little bit about already, is that you'll have an action-oriented, community-owned plan, and that will support you all, everyone in the district, in making decisions about time, about energy, about money. And the plan will, in turn, strengthen student performance, student well-being, and position the district for long-term success. In regards to logistics or timeline, I know some people had questions about that. We worked September through November on mission, vision, values. December, we started our needs assessment. Honestly, we ran out of time at our last meeting, but we will be doing a virtual SWOT analysis between now and January. In January, we will be meeting with staff on their first day back, just to get their input on the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the district, as well as review the data. February, we will be training some goal champions. That's what we call the people who will lead the goal areas. April and May, we hope to finalize the plan. At this point, I will tell you we'll have a plan ready to go for you for next school year, and we might have to be loose about this exact timeline. But it is our hope that we would present to you for board approval no later than June, and that after that we would start monitoring the plan and working the plan. I also know we had a question about alignment. When I was brought into the district in the fall, there were a few plans. There was a strategic plan, and then there was a more academic-focused CSIP plan. From the CSIP plan, I worked with Dr. Taylor and Dr. McConnell on really focusing in on a few things that we could do and do well from those plans this year. And so We're calling that the Focus CSIP actions for 25-26. And I believe that much of that work was folded into the accreditation plan for 25-26. So the accreditation plan, I know you're going to hear about it later on this evening, has recently been developed. But when I came in, we saw a need to quickly get focused on a few things and do them right and do them well. And so that's kind of the alignment. The new strategic plan will incorporate primarily academics, but also those things that impact academics, and it will be aligned to the accreditation plan for next year. So our next step, as I've said, are the January input meetings, and that's the end of my 10-slide presentation. Open it up for any questions the board might have. I know several of you have been to some meetings.
Thank you very much. Director Edwards, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I'm sorry I missed your name.
I'm Dr. Mary Hendricks Harris. I have a bad habit of not introducing myself.
Okay.
Mary.
Good evening. So I have several questions. I'm gonna try to keep it short. This is my, where can I start? For clarity, can you give us the full name for the CSIP? Because I wish that the district get into a habit of getting away from using the acronyms as we're presenting, not just to the board, but we're presenting to the public. And everybody is not accustomed to the acronyms that we use in education and other industries. So can you?
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So if we think of a strategic plan being all-encompassing, that's kind of the big overall umbrella plan. And then we talk about the comprehensive school improvement plan, and that is typically the area of the strategic plan that is focused on academics. So comprehensive school improvement plan are one of the acronyms I've used this evening. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. So that being said, this is one of our governing documents, the CSIP plan, Continuous School Improvement Plan. And you did explain a little bit about the timeline. I appreciate it if we can get a copy of this presentation because I didn't quite receive it. And give me a second here because I have a couple of notes. I mentioned that it is one of our governing documents. Now, what role is expected of the board moving forward as it relates to the governance and how the board will be included throughout the process and the development of this plan?
Yeah, let's talk about board inclusion first. So we do have some representatives from the board on the committee. And so they are your representatives in regards to seeking input and those kinds of things. It's been requested of one of those members, that we hold a separate session, if you will, to elicit input from the board regarding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the district. From there, those would be taken back to the steering committee. Typically, I shouldn't say, there's nothing typical in regards to board roles. I've done the whole gamut from there's no board activity until the final document is presented. And I've also worked in districts where the entire board was at every steering committee meeting. So I'm not going to say that this is how it typically goes because everybody does things a little differently. But I think the plan for you all is to have representation on the committee and then to have this SWOT activity, if you will, to gather input from the whole board for the steering committee to use. Typically, also, it's workshopped before it's approved. So that would give you an opportunity to provide some final thoughts, some input prior to bringing it for board authorization. One of the things I tell boards is that it's your job to provide input and approve the plan. It's not your job to write the plan. And so you've got some great people who are in the daily and understand the action steps that need to be taken. Priorities and major goals could be something that you would have some input on.
Okay,
Is
thank
that
you.
helpful?
Yeah, that is. That's very helpful. Thank you. Another question I have is you mentioned a little bit about the timeline, and I want to know if the timeline is appropriate to meet DESE's expectations as far as the verification window.
Yeah, we'll be a little bit ahead of the game.
Okay. And I guess my other question is, what is the period for us? Is it the period of January through January 1, March 1, 26, or is it March 27.
There you have it. Now I have to do math. You will start your plan, hopefully, July 1 of 2026.
Okay.
And that will go through June 30th of 2029.
Okay.
So it's school year, it's not fiscal year.
Okay.
I would also add that while you will be approving the plan and it will be written with ideas for 3 years, it should be constantly changing. So as people are providing those quarterly updates, the action steps should be changing, the metrics might change, the goals might even change, the priority areas should stay the same.
Okay, thank you for that. And the last one, you mentioned in this presentation today, and this was my first time hearing of the Focus CSIP Action Plan for 25 and 26.
Yes, and I think that was an informal internal document, but one of the things when we sat down with the representatives from DESE, the state supervisors, was there was a concern that between the strategic plan and the CSIP that there was just a lot there, and that they wanted to see some very focused work that we could 100% guarantee was completed and done well. There were a lot of other good things in that plan, and I think they all will get done, but we really wanted to have a very focused, I believe we started with 3 areas. I don't know them off the top of my head, but I know it was PLCs, which is work that's being done. Literacy was another one, and attendance might have been the third, but don't quote me on that. So it wouldn't be anything that you wouldn't be familiar with. We just pulled it out to make sure that there was an enhanced focus in those 3 areas.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It was a lot in that CSIP, the previous one, so I would agree to narrow it down to get us on track and get some fast movement going on throughout the district. I think for the sake of time, and I'll allow my other board members some questions.
Thank you.
When you think about a working knowledge of the most recent annual performance report, how has that impacted this work, particularly around creating a sense of urgency? You mentioned that this work is moving slower than usual.
Yeah, I think that is where the accreditation plan is going to come in. So I think the urgency, as we've addressed it to this point, has been in pulling out those important things in that focused CSIP plan and the accreditation plan. That's going to get us through this year. The strategic plan should be more long-term and will start in July. There will be action items in there that are going to show urgency, but to gather a committee, get mission, vision, values, goals, input, all of those things done with the urgency that you need right now because of your most recent APR is just not reasonable to incorporate in a 3 to 5 year plan.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have one.
Please.
As I look at logistics, I'm really interested in the very last one, June, July, which is the monitoring systems and the dashboard. Can you talk to me a little bit about what the content of that might look like?
So some of that will occur over the course of the month. So I can't tell you this is exactly what you will be monitoring and this will be what your dashboard will look like. But what I can tell you is one of the reasons strategic plans and CSIPs fall apart is because they are not monitored and there are no metrics. And so it is our goal when we're done. Maybe I can talk you through an area. This may or not be an area for you. So let's just use this as an example.
Let's use academics as that area.
Okay, so if we were to talk about reading, literacy, we would set a goal around literacy. And typically that is a state goal around English language arts and the percent proficient. That's what typically happens. Again, I don't know that that's what will happen in your district. So that would be your long-term goal that you can only measure once a year. And then we'll have shorter-term objectives. So for example, 100% of the teachers to go through a literacy training, 100% of coaches to provide feedback 4 times a month to every teacher, professional development on instructional strategies, what percent of the teachers have that, what percent of your classroom walkthroughs being done by your principals demonstrate literacy best practices as was trained in the professional development. So it's more monitoring the steps along the way. That's what you can monitor on the regular versus the SMART goals, which are set annually. I like to use attendance because it's a little simpler. So we monitor attendance by 90/90, as you know, on an annual basis. We could show you monthly attendance reports, so that could be a metric along the way. But to dig even a little deeper, it would be to look at what percent of actions are being taken with Fidelity every quarter. So an example of a district that I work with is that every chronically absent student has a individual attendance plan, and so we would show the board on a quarterly basis what percent of those students we actually were be able to complete the attendance plan on.
You know, and I think as you have that conversation around the academic piece, I'm really wanting to make sure that the plan addresses the students that are in Tier 2 and Tier 3, because we need to peel back the onion, understand the root causes, and I'm hoping that this plan will create a roadmap to help us move them from one side of the aisle to the other in the most expedient manner.
Yeah, I try not to include my own content. I'm a facilitator of the plan for the Normandy School District. And I do think Tier 2 and Tier 3 are going to be important, but in looking at your most recent data, I can tell you that you can't intervene your way out of a Tier 1 instructional issue. Yep. And so this is me not being your facilitator, but someone to address your question in that but we want to get 80% of the kids reading on grade level before we put too much of a focus on Tier 2 and Tier 3. So if we think of just a few things that we need to do around the district to improve your APR, Tier 1 literacy instruction should be at the top of the list.
Okay.
Dr. Triplett, would you have anything to add, or would you say anything different than I just
totally agree.
said?
Totally agree. I'm
So
glad you said
I do
that.
think it will be in the plan. I do think Tier 1 will be the more of a priority.
In fact, that's one of the priorities in the accreditation plan. So, and I'll touch on that later.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? One last question. Logistically, when you think about communication protocols around this particular document and its various components, how do you intend to ensure that it'll be a living document that's a part of the focused work that people do every day?
Well, I think one of the ways is the monitoring that we just said. So when people understand that there needs to be quarterly reporting out to the Board of Education regarding their action steps and their metrics, that tends to keep people focused on it. I think another thing that keeps it to being a living document is for it to be very limited, which is a concern that I had with some of your previous documents. We have to have a very refined, very focused, very intentional plan for people to work it, because if you look at a many-page plan, people get very, very overwhelmed. And the other thing that happens is that the intentions of doing great things filter down to be a workload and a bandwidth issue on the front lines of our teaching staff. And so we really need to limit, I always say 90% of the people doing whatever we're asking them 90% of the time is what's going to get you your results. So I think a limited plan, minimally quarterly reporting out to the Board of Education on the aspects of the plan. Those are two things that will make it a breathing document. And then the rest has to be internal. So it would be departments reporting out to each other in cabinet and Dr. Triplett, internal conversations about each of those goal areas. You will have goal champions, so you will have people leading those goal areas, and they will ensure that it's a fluid document and changes are happening along the way as needed. And accountability is put in place. I'll tell you, the committee's very focused on accountability. We've had several conversations. We haven't gotten there yet, but we know that there needs to be accountability to the plan moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Milton Roberts.
Yes, as it relates to the dashboard, we haven't really had a chance in our meetings to talk about that, but what technology, what are you trying to use for the dashboard so that it is constantly accessible and is front and center all the time?
Yeah, I can tell you we are just piloting a couple options at EdPlus right now, so I can't give you the answer to that, but we're playing around with what is the most user-friendly way to give people information. The hiccup is always systems reporting to other systems. So you all have your own, just let's say, attendance reporting system, and having that system feed into a system that can give you a dashboard on all of your metrics is a challenge. So I don't have a direct answer for you now. I can just tell you that we're working on it, and that I believe by July we'll have some a good start for the district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We really appreciate
Sure,
it.
if you have any questions, anytime. Is there more?
You have one more?
Dr. Edwards, you have the floor.
My question is, how often will we receive an update for the work that's being done in the committee? Because I know you mentioned that the final draft will come in June, but will we receive updates in between time?
So a couple things we can do there. This is the will of the board. Internally, you have people attending those meetings that can report out. They're going to be the ones that are going to own the plan in the end. I'm not saying I won't come and give you a regular update if that's what you want, but typically that is not what happens. We want to start having the responsibility be internal. So you could ask for an update from the meetings as frequently as you want. We meet monthly. The other thing some boards do is they just ask for a summary in the board update from the superintendent. So it could be any of those ways. You also have at least 2 representatives on the Board of Education who could speak to the work being done at any time. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you for your presentation. We look forward to continued updates, and we look forward to the completion of this most valuable product.
I do too. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, continuing on with the superintendent's report, item number 6.02, the Normandy Middle School update. At this time, we would ask Principal Hope Sutton to please come forward. Dr. Hope Sutton is here.
Make sure we get it right.
Good evening, President, Dr. Petty, and the board, Dr. Triplett, and all stakeholders.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am Dr. Sutton, proud principal, Normandy Middle School, and I am coming to provide you data around superintendent's goal number 1, which is student achievement, and it's the utilization of multiple sources of student, school, and district level data to improve our student achievement or learning. Our projected enrollment was 618, and our actual enrollment at the time of this presentation being created was 602. We have 3 areas that we focus on, which is attendance, because if students are not at school, they cannot learn. Discipline, if they don't feel safe, they cannot learn and won't come to school. And then our academics. So what you're looking at is a comparison of 2024 and 2025. 2024, you can see we hovered around the low 90s and the high 80s from month to month. 2025, the 52% is our proportional attendance at the time of this report. Our 90 attendance for this year, in August, it was 89%. In September, 89%. It's actually, we've been 89% August through November this school year with our 90%. Our disciplinary infractions, again, comparison 2024 and 2025. You'll notice reductions in ISS and OSS, ISS being in-school suspensions, OSS being out-of-school suspensions, and a slight increase in our bus suspensions. With ISS and OSS, the reduction is allowing for students to have more seat time. They're in class rather than out of school or in ISS sitting. The 197 in 2024, that's for the entire year. So we're almost halfway through the year. So you can see that there is a considerable reduction in that and out of school suspensions. We get to our iReady beginning of year data. This is for English language arts. Wait, let me turn here. You'll see that 3 or more grade levels improved. From last year, it was 346 that was below grade level to 301, so that's 45 fewer students in that category. So we know that they are moving out of the below basic. They're moving towards the on grade level performance. The 1 grade level decreased from 82 to 62, and then 2 grade levels below decreased from 51 to 45. So they are moving toward grade level proficiency. The concern is that our students that are at mid or above grade level dropped from 70 to 56, and then our early on grade level dropped from 57 to 32. So that's a concern because those students that were in those levels did not have the expected growth to maintain proficiency. So iReady Math, same thing. There's a major concern that the bulk of our students are 3 or more grade levels below. With math, we really need to focus on that stretch growth and not just that 1 year typical growth so we can close those achievement gaps. We have 346 last year in 3 or more grade levels below, reduced to 297, which is 49 fewer. But we also had a significant drop of our mid or above grade level from 70 to 48, and then our on grade level from 57 to 22. To me, that just signifies some stronger tier 1 instruction that's necessary. When we get to our MAP data in ELA, there's achievement status, 12 points possible, as well as 12 points possible with the growth points. And both years, 24 and 25, we received 6 out of the 12 for achievement status. Our growth was increased from 3 to 9, which is a significant improvement. We're approaching now that proficiency level that we're striving for. So that's good data. Our NPI went from 315 last year to 320 this year, 320.4. In math, not the same story as ELA. In 24 and 25, we did not receive points for status, so 0 points both years. And in 25, 24, there were 12 growth points possible, and they earned all 12, but last year we received 0. Our achievement status went from, that's science, I'm sorry. So math is a critical area that needs addressing. We fairly held steady with our NPI points. There was a slight drop, 271 to 269. In science, we increased our NPI from 281 to 294.2, so the overall performance in science is improving. That achievement status in science, there's 4 points possible, and we earned 1 this year versus the 0 last year. And then the growth points, there was 1 earned in 24, and then this year we got a half a point. That just means that some students reached proficiency, but not all of them met the expected growth. In our NPI 281 to 294. These are just some of the interventions and strategies that we're utilizing to address each of those areas. Our discipline, we've implemented our PBIS, which is Positive Behaviors Intervention Systems. We have our social workers, our behavior interventionists, our counselors, who are meeting with students who require that extra support. We have check-in, check-out process, which we are still working to make that most effective. Care team meetings, parent meetings, trying to involve parents however we can. It takes a village. Our attendance, we're meeting weekly to address our attendance, making parent calls, sending home attendance letters, home visits when necessary, daily attendance audits, and attendance incentives, you know, if they come to school. So right now, the next trip is an upcoming movie. So they're going to the show if they have that 90% attendance, correct? 90% attendance. In our academics and class interventions, we're meeting in our PLCs weekly to discuss planning and interventions. We're tracking students' already progress. We have successfully implemented tutoring, not as many students as we would like just yet, but parents are responding. Teachers are making calls to get students in the after-school tutoring. And we did have TRIO come today to tutor. So still not as many as we want, but that is in progress. And then just recognizing students for their successes. District support that's needed, flexibility in the master schedule to allow time for our teachers to collaborate. Currently, they only have time as a department for planning purposes, but as far as middle school goes, the whole concept is built around teacher teams where they work together to support students' academics and to meet with parents as a team. So I need some flexibility with that. And then I'd also like to continue offering students opportunities to engage in school, to want to come to school, and to understand what their interests are. That's it. Questions?
Thank you. I want to begin with the question. You mentioned daily attendance audits, and I noticed that for proportional attendance, that data was not captured for some of the months. I'm wondering what challenges your team faces capturing attendance records.
As far as proportional attendance goes,
Yes, all of it actually, but in particular proportional.
Yeah.
so the 90-90, we're fine with pulling the reports. The proportional was actually given to me, and I've yet to see in Power School where I can just look and see proportional attendance, and it's right there. So that would be the main challenge. You know, if I can go and pull a 90-90, but I don't see a number for proportional or the word that says proportional.
Thank you for that response. I have one other question. When you mentioned interventions for academics, there was a bullet point that said in-class interventions. Can you specify exactly what that means in terms of instructional delivery methods, use of instructional strategies, formative assessment?
Yes, so during class time, teachers are constantly formatively assessing students. At the end of class, they also should be providing an exit ticket that will tell the teacher where the student is. Did they get the learning target for the day? If they did not, they know that that student needs some extra support around that concept before they move that student to the next. So they figure out what intervention is necessary, but it's important to know where students are in their learning and monitoring that so that you're giving them what they need to be successful.
And in that, Dr. Petty, when you start talking about in-class intervention, that's where the rubber meets the road. We can do tutoring all day, but if we don't have in-class intervention, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you pull out those small groups inside the classroom where teacher can teach the students who are not getting it and have something else for students who are getting it. So you really want to answer those 4 PLC questions in class and allow interventions to take place in class. Push in, not pull out, right? And so ability group, right? Allow peer-to-peer teaching. All of those kinds of things are in-class strategies that interventions that we're going to use, and those are the things that we're talking about in the accreditation plan. That conversation is happening now. We've had it with the principals, and Friday it'll start happening with staff. We have a professional development day Friday, and then roll out in January.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Triplett. Questions? Milton Roberts, you have the floor.
Yes, I guess I'm going to start kind of where you left off. So for those differentiations and pullouts and so forth, do you have the staffing that you need in each of your classrooms in order to do that? Because it seems as though it'd be very difficult for one teacher to differentiate between 3 levels, for instance.
I have one teacher. There are some classes that have 2. If it's a SSD class, or
Oh, okay.
special school district teacher, some of those have 2 teachers, but otherwise the strategy is in the planning the lessons to ensure that you have addressed those 4 questions. If they get it, then what are they doing? Those that don't get it, what do I have them doing? It's part of the plan, but there's one teacher, and the planning is important to ensure that you're addressing all the different needs.
In most of those classes, how many students do you have when you have the one teacher?
I would say about 20 on average.
Okay.
I mean, that doesn't, I mean, on average, it could be a larger class, but about 20.
Another question that I would have, you're seeing some slippage with your proficient and tier 1 students. What do you attribute that to?
Lack of tier 1 instruction. You have to teach on grade level. If a student gets it, you need to extend that learning.
Right. Okay. So in essence, what I'm hearing is that with the 20 students, and you have a significant number that are tier 2 or 3, the tier 1 students are kind of being left to their own, not left to their own devices, but they don't have the push, if you will, to excel beyond where they are.
Could be, yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Another question that I would have for you is, you mentioned something about the plan that you had in place to give the students activities and things to help them to want to come to school, because we all know that educationally we jumpstart learning by moving our bodies, and that all of the other activities feed into kids wanting to come to school, which feeds into the academics. Do we have enough support around that, or?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So what additional things do we need around that?
I just need to be able to allow it in my schedule. Right now, I have been instructed to remove it because students need more reading and math, and that is correct, they do. However, I also need them to be engaged. I need them to want to come to school.
Right.
I need them to understand the relevance of what they're learning in class.
Okay.
So this kind of just helps pull all of it together.
So we need to make a nice little bow, if you will, that shows, that gives them an opportunity to engage as well as to do the academics, because they feed one another.
And it's a
Okay.
carrot, you know.
Yeah.
They can't participate if they're failing.
Yeah.
And then I could send them to the study groups, you know. 'cause-
Okay. So as we're doing the accreditation plans and all of those things, are we looking at middle school as being the unique entity that it is? My sister used to be a middle school principal, so that's why I say that. Those are unique little people. Are we looking at it as the unique entity that it is to ensure that we're giving enough of that, carrot and, the stick kind of thing? Because if I'm looking at 56%, that kind of is concerning to me. It tells me that they're not saying, Mom, I got to get to school.
I would agree.
And so
Okay.
and the accreditation plan is attached to for your viewing. But I do want it to be known that the accreditation plan is an accelerated plan. to make sure we maximize how we get the points. Okay, that's what the CCR all the way down. The other plan, it doesn't say we don't do the other things, but we're talking about we're in a position now where we have to gain points. And so the accreditation plan really hits homes those things those things we need to do to get the points. And so where we're not saying that Dr. Hope can't do the things she's doing, but the accreditation plan shows her where some focus focus areas are, and where that need should be in order to maximize the points she needs to get.
I
With
understand.
targets,
Yeah, no, I
targeted
understand that.
goals
I
and-
understand. I guess my concern as I'm listening is that I keep hearing of things that we're going to do for the principals, what we're going to do to the teachers, but I'm not hearing what we're going to do to energize the kids, because they're the ones that are going to get the scores. It's not going to be the teacher. It's going to be the student.
Well-
so what are we doing to, do we have enough emphasis on engaging and energizing the students to get the scores? Because we can talk to the adults all day long. The students are the ones that have to get the scores.
I understand, but not one board person, not one superintendent, not one principal moves students. Teachers move students. So the focus is to make sure we equip teachers with what they need to move students. That's what the focus is. And the teachers know what to do to move students, but we have to equip the teachers with what they need to move the students, which also means what does engagement looks like. That's a part of our walkthrough. And so those walkthroughs have those questions in it. What are we doing around engagement? What does engagement look like, et cetera, et cetera. So without jumping too far ahead, when we look at the accreditation plan, when we look at our walkthroughs, all of those things are encompassing. So I don't want it to be thought that that engagement is not a critical piece. It is. But I also want it to be known that teachers move students. And we have to make sure teachers have the equipment needed, the resource needed to move students, especially especially with this accreditation piece, because it's an accelerated plan. So we're expecting teachers to do this. We have to make sure they have the resources to do it. So I understand what you're saying, Director Milton Roberts, but we have to make sure teachers have the know-how, the abilities to do what they need to do to engage students in lessons that are captivating to students, but that are also aligned with the type of questions that the state puts out. We want the questions we use in our CFAs, or common formative assessments, to mimic the questions that the state uses, so our students be used to the language when they take the test. Those are the kind of things we have to focus on. That's what this accelerated plan does.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. Director Vice President Pearson.
Good evening, Dr. Sutton. I think I probably missed it, but what is MPI?
The points that you receive for achievement.
It's the MAP Performance Index.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
I got you. Oh, Dr. Sutton. I got you.
For achievement.
Are there any other questions specifically for Dr. Sutton? I think that some of the questions that we may want to entertain as board members, we probably should reserve until we hear the accreditation plan that's being presented by the superintendent.
I have a question.
Yes, Director
Hi,
Davis
good evening,
Day.
Dr. Sutton. You had iReady data. How many times have they taken that iReady test so far?
2 were tested today, and we'll test again tomorrow. So this
So
is the
that-
middle.
I'm sorry, so that they've taken it already twice, or today they're going to
Today
take it a
makes
second
2.
time?
Mhm.
So that data that you presented was from the beginning of the school year?
Yes, only, yes.
And do you have that data per grade level?
Yes.
Okay,
It's not on here, but yes, I have it by grade level.
okay. You can send that to the board?
I can.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right.
And Director Davis Day, going forward, we will confer with the superintendent and ask that that information be included in upcoming school presentations. If there are no further questions for Dr. Sutton, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Sutton.
We'll now move to item 6.03, the superintendent's report, the accreditation plan.
Good evening, Board, Normandy Schools Collaborative, and community partners. The purpose of the accreditation plan, again, is an accelerated plan, and the purpose is to articulate a focused set of strategic actions designed to maximize APR points, strengthen Tier 1 instructional practices, ensure upcoming uncompromising data integrity, and elevate overall district performance as we enter the 2025 MSIP 6 accreditation cycle. The superintendent's focus area, our superintendent's goal is student achievement, and it's aligned with policies IA, instructional goals, priority objectives, IGA, basic instructional programs. So when we talk about this fast track to accreditation, what does that look like? We have 7 focus areas. When you look at the, and I will make sure that the accreditation plan is on the website so that you could see it. But this is a 10-page document, and that 10-page document focuses on 7 areas. The first area is strengthening Tier 1 instruction. That's our non-negotiable. Every APR point begins in the classroom. And when we do that, our plan is to ensure every student every day receives high-quality, standards-aligned instruction bell to bell. No shortcuts. We will be monitoring instruction through walkthroughs, coaching cycles, PLCs, and principal dashboards. All principals will have dashboards. And we will use district-adopted materials with fidelity, no substitutes, no improvising, no instructional drift. We want to make sure that our instruction, especially around strengthening Tier 1 instruction, is intentional, is data-based, and is driven by planning and PLCs. Assessment readiness. The plan is not to leave any APR points on the table. Our students will be prepared, not surprised, meaning that the questions types that we'll be using will be directly from the language from our EOCs and our maps. So our students will be prepared hearing the same language and reading the same language from the map so that there will be no surprises, and ELCs, so there'll be no surprises. District-wide practice assessments, map rallies, Saturday academies, and explicit test-taking strategy instruction will be standards across all schools. So we want to make sure every school is using the same concepts when it comes to assessing our students. We will use item analysis testlets, screen to scratch. Screen to scratch means moving students from digital interaction to hands-on. What we want to do is get students not so reliant on technology, but use scratch paper and use those things to get answers as well. So we want different modes of how you go about getting answers. And RACES. RACES is the acronym for restate the question, answer the question, cite the evidence, explain the evidence, and summarize. What that'll do is it's a structured response strategy used to help students write clear, complete, text-based answers. Data-driven PLCs. When we look at our PLCs and taking a look at PLCs, I noticed a few things. Our PLCs have a lot of conversations, and we want to stop having just conversations in PLCs. So we want to make sure that our PLCs are grounded in data and not conversation, not guessing data. Our teachers will meet weekly to analyze CFAs, iReady growth, ELC practice items, map practice items, and standard mastery. Instructional decisions will be based on evidence, not preference. So what's the evidence that's saying that our students are moving from below basic to basic to basic to proficient, proficient to advanced. Attendance. Attendance is a low-hanging fruit. However, the way attendance is captured, again, and Dr. Sutton said some things around 90-90, and she said some things around proportional rate. 90-90 means 90% of your students coming to school, 90% of the time. Proportionate means they're coming to school, but how much time are they staying at school? So it's tracked by the minute. So we're trying to find an opportunity to present that in such a way that principals that can see what those minutes look like. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I haven't developed a way, but I'm sure Ms. Gaskin is working on a way to present that to students, teachers, so that principals, so that they can see exactly how they can capture that and post that in their schools instead of posting 90-90. We want to do the same thing the state's doing. So the objective is to mimic exactly what the state's doing, and the state is reports on the credit scorecard, so we can make sure we're mimicking that data. So there will be weekly dashboards, weekly meetings held in schools, weekly meetings held in central office around attendance, what's happening in attendance meetings. We're incentivizing students in schools around attendance. So we're doing a lot of targeted, a lot of contact with parents and with the parent engagement specialists and the FAILs around notifying and contacting parents. We recently started really involving FAILs, which is, in my opinion, is one of the biggest reasons we had that many parents' responses to the surveys. So I want to publicly thank the FAILs for that, and thank Dr. Parker and Raquel Davis for making sure that happens. And I want to do that in front of Chris Kramer, just so you know. He didn't know that. College and career readiness. The strange thing about college and career readiness is that college and career readiness lags a year. So the points we got this past year were for 23-24. In 23-24, we were just bringing back college and career readiness. So we didn't have all of the classes, all of the student participants, all of the tests, CCR. We didn't have all of that year. We had just brought it back. 24-25 results will show next school year, next December. That's when you'll get the results from 24-25. We should see some growth in that area. But we want to make sure that we're doing the things we should be doing to achieve maximize those points. So every senior we know we'll take 2 CCR assessments. The plan is to increase our dual enrollment participation. The plan is to really dive deep and increase our AP, advanced placement participation. We want to make sure that we optimize and we leverage every bit of piece of our CCR program that we can, and that starts with making the identifications and documenting where it should be documented. One of the biggest pieces to CCR is we want to make sure that our monitoring is in place. So when you monitor, what does monitoring looks like, and then what does submissions to core data look like for DESE? So we want to make sure we're tightening up every DESE submission, monthly audits, clean Power School data, MOSIS verification. We want to make sure that principals are signing off on things to make sure that there's a clear communication and connection between our management information system coordinator and principals and the CCR coordinator, so that we can make sure the data is right, the data reads the way it should read, and it's uploaded into DESE's system at the time it should be uploaded. And lastly, leadership accountability. No more gray areas. There's no more pointing fingers. Everybody owns everything. And so when we say all hands in, we want to make sure that we have aligned leadership actions, expectations, and monitoring systems across the district. Principal dashboards, CCR reviews, APR command meetings, and aligned big rocks will keep everybody focused on the same outcomes. Next week, we'll start our data consults where the principals will talk to us about their data, their MPI targets, and what they're doing to achieve their MPI target. It'll get really granular because they have to tell us how many students they're moving from proficient and advanced, for grade level, et cetera, because the points happen across the grade level. It doesn't happen horizontally, it happens vertically. So we want to make sure that we're third grade to third grade, we're matching what we should be doing, and we're moving the students we should be moving. So their job is to make sure they identify those students who can move and how they're going to move them. And then transparency is built into our process so that there is no confusion about what gets monitored. The Normandy School Collaborative enters, we want to make sure we enter our 2026 with a clear mission, and that's to restore the district back to full accreditation through results, rigor, and relentless commitment to excellence. The current plan outlines the district's unified strategy to strengthen instruction, stabilize attendance, ensure uncompromising data accuracy, and elevate college and career readiness so that every scholar is fully prepared for life after graduation. Normally is firmly committed to expanding assessment pathways, increasing access to CTE and dual credit opportunities, and ensuring every student graduates with a meaningful documented post-secondary plan. Achieving this vision requires a collective effort. Every staff member, every leader, every community partner plays a vital role in rewriting Normandy's history. From struggle to success, from deficit to destination, and from limited opportunities to genuine readiness for college, career, and life. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Vice President Pearson.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. I was looking at the slideshow that was provided to us in Diligent, and I just want to ask, will Ms. Gaskin be fully supported by the teachers and parents in the attendance plan? I know that attendance is just not on, the building, but it also needs to come from the parents and teachers and students. So will she be fully supported in their role, making sure that we get those points for attendance?
Yes. So a couple of things we've done, along with Commissioner Esslinger. She's pairing us up with one of her data persons who really understands the attendance portion. So we're waiting on that communication. But Ms. Gaskin, we've involved our parent engagement specialist in our attendance meetings weekly. I believe Dr. Brooks is in the process of inviting I'm not sure there's supervisors, Ms. Davis and the other lady, to those meetings so that we could do a full court press on what does it look like to involve parents, get more parents involved in the attendance process.
Okay. Thank you.
Director Edwards.
Good evening, Dr. Triplett. I want to first say I appreciate the acceleration of the accreditation plan, like you say, plan. I understand that that this is a heavy lift, but I do have some questions. I do understand that every student, every score, every step we take is a pathway to points, and I believe those points can be achieved. Although I would like to start with what I found, what I didn't see, and you may have this, is any success indicators, like milestones, dates, and target the APR point gains, and that are tied to each priority of the plan.
tied to each priority of so we have not because there's no movement yet, and we're in the training phases and notification phases. I do know that with instruction, our data and assessment person has issued to buildings their MPI targets. So they know what those targets are, so that way they can plan to see which students they can move in which areas around proficient and advanced, if you will. And CCR the same way. What students who are taking the proper assessments, the right assessments, and those kinds of things. So what's happening is that we will have a dashboard. Once we get all of those things together, there will be a dashboard, and there will be some lofty goals set around attendance, set around academics, and each building has their own MPI targets. Each grade level has their own MPI targets, and so we want to make sure that we're getting the right information to move the right students in the right areas. So all 7 of the priorities may not have goals, but they will have some level of dashboard so that we can monitor what we're doing within those 7 priorities.
Okay. So I think I heard you mentioned a little bit ago that the plan is expected to be implemented January, correct? Okay. But I do see that this is a draft, so will we get the updated before the implementation?
So this is actually the plan. It was in draft form because we wanted to make sure the edits were done and those kinds of things. But this is the draft form. You will get the final form, but it's not too far from that.
Okay.
From the draft.
And my other question is, there is a mention that that there's a cost associated with it, but we didn't receive it. So when will we be able to receive a cost breakdown and a timeline for the expenditures?
It all depends on what tutoring looks like. We have money set aside for tutoring. We just don't know what that looks like because we don't know how many teachers will be tutoring, because that's a whole different process. But we do know that the funds will come from Title. We just don't know at this time how much that will be, because we don't know what manpower we're looking like or teacher power we're looking like.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything further, Director Edwards? Thank you. I got it.
Okay.
You mentioned tonight the importance of what teachers do in the classrooms. And in the association with that, you talk about the PLCs, the professional learning communities. And we heard about the professional learning communities in the DESE hearing meeting last week. I'm wondering if you can talk just a little bit about what are those specific teacher behaviors that are on display during these professional learning communities, and what are the specific mandatory action steps that should be happening in each PLC?
So with regards to teacher behaviors, and it should be, and usually those PLCs are led by one of the building instructional leaders, okay, and possibly even a one of the math or ELA coordinators or directors. But what should happen is that teachers should come with their data and a plan to address what the data says, and there should be a lot of conversation around classroom interventions. And then what does that mean? And they should be closely aligned with guided coalition conversations with guided coalitions. So there should be a lot of conversations around what are we doing for students who get it? What are we doing for students who don't get it? What are we expecting students to know? Those kinds of questions. And so when we do that, we have to make sure we're using the data that's given to us, be it iReady, be it MAP, be it CFAs. We have to. What has not been happening, in my opinion, is the structure of the PLCs are just not as solid as they should be. And so we're scripting what that looks like. We've had conversations with the principals to talk about what PLCs should look like moving forward, and we're scripting some things out with regards to what teacher behaviors, what leadership behaviors should look like in that room, and what takeaways should look like in that room, and what preparedness should look like coming into that space. So in the end result, teachers should leave out of PLCs encouraged through thought partnership. They should leave out of that room feeling like they can tackle the world, because now we have true data that says, hey, this is where students are performing. These are some ideas. These are some strategies we can use. These are some interventions we can use during class. One of the conversations I had at the high school with Dr. Nave was, how much homework do we send home? You can't be a championship team if you don't practice outside of the game. And so when we give homework and students come back to school with that homework, the problem is we start do nows. But the do now is different learning, and that's not the way it should go. That do now should be extension of what they learned the previous class, so that they can make sure they're measuring the student retained the information before you move on to the lesson. I tell people all the time, teachers don't close lessons, students close lessons. So allow the students to close the lessons through your do now before moving on to the new lesson. So there are some things like that we're really trying to structure moving forward through PLCs.
I'm really glad to hear you speak about the structure of the PLCs, because if that structure is not there, then we lose opportunities to really move academic achievement. And I'm also really glad to hear you talk about the data must be present first and foremost in those PLC meetings. I'm wondering, would you agree that a couple of the things that must happen in those PLCs is that we are establishing those student learning groups, because you talked about the Tier 1 instruction. And so one of the things that I'm wondering, would you agree that should happen in the PLCs is establishing those student learning groups? And when you think about the Tier 1 students and making sure that instruction is appropriate, we have to look at differentiation of instruction, which we know differentiating instruction is one of the most difficult tasks that teachers can come across. So I'm wondering, would you agree that those are some things that are a part of that PLC structure? Absolutely, and they become strategies, right? They become classroom interventions, right? Differentiation, ability grouping, peer-to-peer instruction, all of those things become in-class interventions. And so, all of those conversations should happen in PLCs in determining what's best in classrooms, Absolutely. Other questions?
Yes. First of all, thank you for the presentation. I've taken a look at it, and I think there are lots of activities in the plan, but from a more practical standpoint, I ask myself, how do we get more clarity to what I call the roadmap to accreditation? Because right now we have 51% of the points. And so we're trying to get to a certain targeted number. What I didn't see in the plan is specifically where are our points coming from. I see all of the activities that's leading us to it, but what I would like to see is some kind of a tentative listing to say, okay, we got CCR here, we're going to get this, we're going to do, so that way we can begin to kind of, in a more granular sense, understand all of these activities are good, but at the end of the day, it's got to speak to the back end of the process. How many points are we going to get as a result of this, whether it's attendance, graduation, CCR. So we need to create a tentative list of if we had a perfect storm and we got everything we were looking for, we're going to get all these points, and we're shooting for this number. I didn't see that level of specificity in here, and I would love, as we go forward, to be able to have that level of conversation, saying that, we're here with 51% of the points. After we do all the stuff that's here, we anticipate ending over here.
And thank you for that, but you probably won't get that here. What you'll get that is at the building level, because that's where, when we start having these data consults, and they're target MPI scores, okay? That's where we talk about how we get that. We can tell you all day that the goal is 70, but the how we get there will really come from principals with regards to what students will be moved and how they will be moved and those kinds of things. So I could put together something probably close to what you're talking about to see if that works for you. But a lot of so we just know that 70 is our target.
Okay.
And here's your portion of the 70. How are you going to get there? That's what the principal is going to tell us, how they're going to, what students and how they're going to move students to get there. CCR is the hardest part because that lags a year, so we don't know yet what that looks like. But instructionally, performance-wise, principals will let us know how they will get those and what students or what number of students they will move from below basic to basic to proficient or advanced. That will come from the schools.
Okay, and I do appreciate that. And I think we're probably saying the same thing in a different way, because if the goal is 70 points or 75 points, in my mind, you're creating a system of backward design. What are we going to do in the system to get all of the points leading up to, whether or not it's at the building level, the CCR, the attendance, the graduation rate, all of those, we need to put together a tentative set of numbers saying if we had a perfect storm, here's where our points are going to come from. The other thing I think we need to take a closer look at is the whole CCR process. Even though it's lag and you don't really see what you have until the next year, I think there needs to be some level of activity tracking that at any given time we know exactly where we are. I don't ever want to wait to the end of to next year when somebody comes out. I'd rather have an educated guess on the front end and be close to it than to wait to have somebody tell me something on the back end, whether or not I'm going to make it or not.
And we do have CCR trackers.
Okay, but you indicated that we wouldn't know about 24, 25 until next year, is what you had indicated.
Yeah, but we still have trackers.
Okay, but all I'm simply saying, let's periodically update us on the tracking so
Okay.
we'll know if
we can do that.
if we're on pace to get what it is that we need to get. Because I think it's a very lofty plan, and I think at the end of the day, this plan is either going to die or live based on the implementation and monitoring of the plan. So I'm really interested in seeing the dashboards that are associated with this. And I was excited, too, when you talk about the PLCs, because I know there's a part of the PLC process that talks about the pyramid of intervention. What do we do when children are not learning? And so that goes back to what Dr. Sutton was saying when she was talking earlier. She talked about the schedule being a pivotal part of how they do the work at the building level. And so as she said that, I was asking myself the question, in this plan, how much teacher principal input went into this? Because as I hear her talking about schedule, I'm thinking if we had that level of dialogue, that schedule issue should have been addressed. The other thing, because when she talked about scheduling, and I know a lot of times there's a lot of focus around stay with the pacing guide, make sure you're doing this, that, and the other, but it actually forced the question for me, how much collaboration time for teachers is actually built in that schedule? Because you can only get so much done in PLC. The rest of it comes through collaboration and common assessments. So how much of that time is actually built in the schedule? That may not necessarily be a question we can answer today.
It's not.
But it's one that we need to pay attention to.
We are, but you have to understand the entire process, and maybe that's a off meeting conversation between you and I, because it's way more than you could possibly imagine. I understand you sit on the board for years, but that is a very detailed process that you're talking about, and all of it don't touch everybody's hands.
Right, but I think it's also a process that will benefit the entire board, not just me.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just putting it out there. You asked, you
But
mentioned it, so I wanted to.
But the final thing I want to say is I think it's helpful to help us better understand the component parts of effective Tier 1 instruction. Because you talked about walkthroughs and giving feedback. And if our data is any indication, I heard a couple of times where it says our data is indicative of having a Tier 1 problem, not how do we do Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention. So I think it would be helpful to periodically give us some feedback on what you're learning through the walkthroughs that's helping to drive this process.
So all of that, if you noticed, I said in the overview that there would be dashboards, so there will be a plethora of data that we can look at. So I'm hearing what you're saying, but we already talked about it. We mentioned that there would be monitoring, there would be data dashboards, principal dashboards, attendance dashboards, academic dashboards. All of those things will be in place. So you will be getting frequent updates regarding.
Right. And I would simply say this: when it comes to data, you may have a plethora of data that you're looking at. Personally, I think if I speak for my board colleagues, we're wanting to see just those data points that lets us know that your plan is working.
I know.
So everything you're looking at, we don't necessarily need to see.
I know exactly what you're saying, and we know the data that you need to see to be comfortable.
Okay. Go ahead and make me comfortable.
I don't want to make you comfortable, but I know what data you should be looking at.
Okay. That's all I got for right now.
I do want to.
I got it. We got one more with Director Edwards, and we're going to come this way.
Okay. Me first?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, President Petty. I do want to speak to the board. Something that Director Humphrey was speaking about is one of my major concerns, is that, looking at the plan, we understand one thing for sure. I ain't no teacher. I ain't no superintendent. I can't do this work, and I trust that the professionals do this work, so I don't want to get down in the weeds of it. But another thing is, for certain, my kids will benefit from the work that's being done. Not only my kids, but their friends. So that's the important work for me, and that's what I want to see. So how do we see that as a board? And so I would like to see in this plan clear success indicators. I would like to see quarterly milestones. And I know the superintendent spoke to this a little bit, but I just want to make sure that we understand. I'm talking amongst our board and for the in front of the public, so they can understand the severity and how serious we take this and how urgent it is for us to understand what is going on as it relates to the accreditation of this district. And so how the best way for us to do this and keep track of it without getting down into the weeds of things. And so the clear success indicators, quarterly milestone reports, monthly progress reporting, and alignment to the MCEP 6 accreditation indicators. Those are some things that I would like to see. And I know that the superintendent did mention something about the scorecards, performance scorecards, but also some metrics. I would like to see metrics to the priority areas and the baseline, okay? And also, if possible, I don't know, but accreditation risk review or analysis. Those are some things that I would like to see. So I just want to mention that amongst our board members so you all can know where I stand and in relates to what Dr. Humphrey and, Director Humphrey and Dr. Triplett were speaking about.
Thank you, Director Edwards. Vice President Pearson.
I just have a clarifying question. Before you became superintendent, CCR, College Career Readiness, I remember this time, dual enrollment, gifted programs, all of those things were implemented in our district at the time, were they?
Before I came?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
We had no CCR program.
So, CCR, we're basically going to get the results from 23, no. What year is it now? 24, 25?
25 next year in December, yeah.
Okay. Because those are points that we could have gotten, but we didn't have those programs implemented in the district. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Director Milton Roberts.
Yes, I have a couple questions. First, I'm really pleased that we are shifting some of our focus to really working with Tier 1 and really understanding that there is a need for a pipeline. I think that one of the things that I would like to ask, kind of going back to the questions that I was asking Dr. Sutton, is again, are we looking at the staffing in our buildings and making adjustments as needed to support the work that you're saying that you want to do? And do we have people, because you keep mentioning tutoring and that, that's something that, we've been talking about that for a year or so now. Are there people in our central office or other places that can help us with that so that we can ensure that we're not just tutoring a small percentage of our students? Because what it looks like to me is that probably 90% of our students need to have some type of support. So, I'm kind of lost because I'm not hearing anything about how we're going to adjust the model that we have right now that has not lent us success.
Well, I don't necessarily say we have a model that we have to adjust, but I will say that buildings identify the students for us. Our job is to help support them, their tutoring efforts. So while Dr. Brooks is actually seeking a tutoring entity that could help us with staffing, because some of the issues was around staffing, some of the issues was around parents not responding to the consent forms. So one of the strategies was to have a conversation with that principal, to have a conversation with their team to get verbal consents and then send confirmation home to teach parents. The biggest thing, though, and I hear you when you say tutoring, that's important. But what's more important is in-class intervention, okay? When you say staffing, I think we're staffed appropriately. We just have to make sure we're supporting people the way they should be supported, or the way they feel they need to be supported. That doesn't mean you have to have 5 teachers in one room. That may be, what does professional development look like for you around differentiation? What does it look like for you around how do you ability group? How do you have small setups in your classroom to where you have stations? How does peer-to-peer instruction look like? So there's a lot of strategies you can use in classroom. So we are supporting my aim is to make sure we're supporting those teachers the way they need to be supported.
I guess for me, I'd like to see focus on that. We, at our previous meeting, heard that we have 2 classrooms that have 32 students in them. I don't care how great a teacher you are, it's kind of hard to differentiate with 32
if we have a class that is overstaffed, the direction to HR is to make sure we get an aide in that class. Okay. Or if it's enough where we can take 2 classes, there's a lot of students in 2 classes, make a 3rd class. So that directive has been issued already.
Okay. It seems like that should be, if to me, that would be a priority. So I don't know that. I'm not
it's happening.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
not, you may not get the updates every day, but it's happening.
Okay. All right. I guess the other thing that I would ask is that as we're looking at this data and we're working toward getting to accreditation, one of the questions that I still have in my mind is that we are matriculating our students out of our early learning center with approximately a 74% proficiency rate. And so one of the things that I've asked and have not yet seen is, have we looked at that data from kindergarten through 12th grade, disaggregated the data to see if the issues are with the children that we're graduating through the early learning center, or if we're having some issues because we have children that are joining us. And if that is the case, what is the proactive remedy for those children when they come into our district to get them up to speed?
So that's a different conversation for a different time, because that's a different data set and a different research, if you will, but not for the accreditation plan. We didn't go that deep into the accreditation plan. We just simply looked at the MAP scores and what's needed, what the acceleration piece is. That's how we created the accreditation plan, not necessarily a historical view on what students came and how long you've been here and what does performance look like for that student. We didn't.
Well, the reason I'm asking that is not because I want historical context, but if you've got 30% of your district that is changing every year.
But that had no bearing on the accreditation plan, is what I'm saying.
But it has bearing on who takes the tests.
I
that's-
think I hear you, but I don't think
Yeah.
you hear me.
Okay. Okay.
I understand what you're saying. I truly do. When we start talking about tier 1, 2, and 3, I understand what you're saying, historical facts and all of that. I'm saying for the APR strategy, path to accreditation, we have this has to be done differently with a different kind of focus to it. And that different kind of focus says we have to put something in place right now that's going to net us points. Right. That does not mean that we don't pay attention to the other pieces, because we're still paying attention to the other pieces. It's just that we have some focus over here and we have some focus over here, and they're different. Okay? So even with the CSIP plan or the strategic plan, that still focuses on everything you're saying: historical numbers, historical data, students coming in the district, students leaving the district. What does growth look like for those students? We still paying attention to those things. I'm just saying for this plan, it's just different than the traditional plan.
Okay. And I guess my last question before I pass the baton here is, what is the focus for our English language learners? Because they also are impacting, the scores and so forth. What extra supports or what extra things are we doing to make sure that they are getting what they need? Because we have a significant number.
So we do have 2 or 3 ELL teachers in the district. What we're doing and you probably like it, is that each building, we're hiring 2 more coaches so that each building will have its own ELA, his own math coach. Our schools who have the highest percentage of ELL students, we have ELL teachers who go to those buildings to provide support for those students.
But it's intermittent, it's not all day, right?
It's probably, more like that, man.
Okay. So,
It was difficult finding those teachers, the extra teachers for that ELL population, because that ELL population has grown tremendously over the last 2 years, which is why we're adding on staff.
Yeah, it just seems as though that might be also another area, because we have over 500 and some students that are not identified, and so many of them probably fall into that category. So that's somewhere close to 700 kids that we need to make sure that we are educating effectively and that they have what they need. So again, that's something that to me we need to pull out and focus on. So I'll yield the mic.
Dr. Petty, if I could.
Please.
One of the things you talked about was acceleration. And as part of and I noticed from when we were looking at the middle school data that she was seeing some decline in the kids that were proficient in advanced. Have we given any more? I know that we're trying to stand up a gifted program. And I don't know where we are in terms of, because I think the biggest holdup is finding someone to run the program. Because I think a lot of times when you have kids, when you talk about differentiating in the classroom, if there are kids that are on the other end of the spectrum that are doing well, what are we doing to kind of stretch them? Because some of those same kids might test as gifted, but at present we don't have any place for them to begin to grow what we have. So I'm a little concerned that I know we had a presentation a few months back about what the gifted program was going to look like, but I don't see us any closer to the starting line of that program. So if you could talk a little bit
Well,
about
well, I can't talk to it right now about it, but we'll double back to against the program. I'm trying to remain focused on,
I got
what
you.
we're doing tonight. I don't want to get off track of what we're talking about tonight. But we can provide the board with an update around the gifted program.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have just one more set of questions, but before Director Davis Day comes with her questions, I just want to say that this is what a living document is all about. The superintendent is presenting the document, we're raising the questions, we're raising the concerns, and now the collective will of the board goes back into the superintendent's court. And as a representative of this board, he and I will have the discussions that reflect the questions, comments, and concerns of each of the board members, and then he will make adjustments to the plan. The plan will be alive and well. It will continue to grow. It will continue to change as needed to meet the needs of the students and the specific learning deficits that our students face. So I hope that everybody understands that this is the process that we've set up, and we intend to stay the course. Is that correct, Superintendent Triplett?
Correct.
Director Davis Day.
Good evening.
Your mic not on.
My apologies. Good evening again.
Good evening.
My question is around the turnover. So,
Turnover?
So, a couple months ago, Solution Tree brought up turnover being the middle school's reasoning for not receiving for the lack of growth at the middle school. So there's been plenty of turnover at the middle school, right? And so I'm trying to see how we are supporting that turnover, because at this point, the students are having to get to know those teachers, and the teachers the same. And so I just would like to know what we're doing.
So let me now address that. Last year we had somewhere between 80 and 85% retention rate. So the turnover at the middle school wasn't high, with an 85% retention rate last year. So, and let me be candid, okay? When you start talking about retention, 20% of retention, in my opinion, is HR, it's onboarding. That's how you onboard people. Are people satisfied, or how do they feel after they're onboarded? And as a principal, when I was a principal, 80% of retention was me. How well I supported teachers. Did I pay attention to teachers' needs and wants, and did I remove distractions from their room? Did I have genuine conversations? Those kinds of things. So my conversations has been the principals, twofold, and I have Mr. Word in here. Mr. Word and I had some really good conversations the other day. I am a big person around, are you inviting the right people in the right spaces when you have conversations with administration? Is your building rep in that room? What does that relationship look like? How are you and your building rep walking around classrooms assisting teachers and finding out what teachers need? Those are the kinds of ways you increase retention, because your teachers have to feel comfortable. They have to feel you're competent. They have to feel safe. They have to feel supported. And those are the things you have to touch your teachers. And so those are my teachings to principals. Even I, as a superintendent, walk around classrooms and have conversations. I was in Mr. Word's classroom the other day. So it's those kinds of things we have to do. We have to make sure we're visible. We have to make sure we're having conversations with teachers. We're listening to their concerns. We're making sure we provide action behind those concerns. And that's how you increase your retention rate. I understand that salaries is one thing, but that's a part of it. That's only a part of it. The other part is, do teachers feel supported? Do they feel safe? Are they comfortable? Do they trust you? Those kinds of things. And so we have to make sure we're doing those kinds of things in order to increase retention rate. But last year, our retention rate hovered somewhere between 80 and 85%, which means that historically, I think the retention rate was around 50-ish%. And last year, I think we got as high as 96% fill rate. Historically, I don't think they even ever eclipsed 55% fill rate, even with subs. So I think we're doing a great job with regards to filling our teacher vacancies and or retaining teachers. We just have to pay better attention and closer attention in the buildings to what the teachers are saying and how they're feeling.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. This has been a most robust discussion around the accreditation plan. I appreciate the effort and input that has gone into it. I look forward to our upcoming meetings to further finalize and flesh out those action steps that need to be included and perhaps amended in the plan. We have some of our most valued community partners in the audience, and I think that they can be of support as we talk through this plan. Obviously, Chris Krameyer is here with Beyond Housing, and obviously Mayor Jackson and Mayor McGee representing the leadership of the 24-1 Municipal Partnership. They too have a vested interest in seeing the district move forward. So we want to make sure that all of these voices are heard. With that being said, thank you again, Dr. Triplett. We will move into the next two items that are very intentionally abbreviated for this meeting because we knew that the bulk of the discussion would be around the accreditation plan. So we have a very abbreviated presentation from KAI on a construction update. Yasi Haynes was here for that, and following that, we'll go right into a very abbreviated financial report from Dr. Brooks.
Abbreviated means short.
Abbreviated, short, correct. Good evening, President, Dr. Triplett, and the school collaborative and community. My name is Yasi Haynes, and I will be giving a very abbreviated update on construction. I think it's very important that we focus all of our efforts on the school. I think that's great, so I will continue to do this really quickly. So what I have here in front of you are the construction projects and the start dates and the completion dates. Bell Ridge, the bus lot, the electrical work that's being done on the bus lot started on the 27th and has finished on the 1st of December. Bell Ridge bus lot parking, this is the asphalt, the work that's being done with the striping. That started on the 27th as well, and is going to be finished on the 15th of December. Early Childhood Learning Center, which is work that's being done. It's an emergency job. Started on the 16th and is slated to be done on the 31st of December this year. Viking Hall Stadium seating, that started on 6/5, and it will be completed on the January 30th. Bell Ridge bus lot, the EV buses, this is the actual delivery of the buses, started on 9/23 with Highland Fleet, and is slated to be done January 30th. But I believe there's some slippage there, and I think Carlton is going to talk about that more. Bell Ridge bus lot, the NSC Facilities Master Plan, that started on 10/9 and is slated to be done 9/30 of 26. And then upcoming construction projects, which is Bell North classroom renovation, started on 1/3 and is anticipated to be done on March 28th, 26. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasi Haynes. Abbreviated and appropriate. Yes. Board members, in terms of questions for Mr. Haynes, I want you to look at those projects and those completion dates and formulate your questions around the upcoming construction projects, updates to classrooms at Bell North, and let's have some real constructive thought going to those questions before we just pose questions tonight, if that's okay.
I only have one question.
Please, Director Pearson, Vice President Pearson.
Good evening, Jossie. I see that the Bell North classroom, it will start January 26th, first quarter. This fire happened November 3rd of last year. So what was the, I guess, hold up for, that's a year, or maybe I'm wrong, 24? Yeah, that was a year. So what was the hold up for that classroom getting the, necessarily work that needed to be done? Because, yeah.
So right now, it's the contracts. It's just we're going through contracting, trying to get the correct contract. The school brought it to KAI so that we can make sure that we have the right contract. We also have insurance issues. There's a cap, and we're trying to work through that as well. It's not as high as it needs to be to cover the cost. So we're trying to make sure the work that we're scheduled to do for that is correct and the scope is correct as well. I wasn't involved with it when it was done a year ago. We were just handed the project not too long ago. We're just trying to make sure that the school is in the best position. Since we're involved, we just want to make sure that the contracts that are being written are correct.
And you said the school brought it to you?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yasi. We appreciate that. And we will get back to you with some real in-depth questions that'll help further the progress of that work.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Brooks will now come forward with agenda item 6.05. Again, another very abbreviated presentation.
Take me to the
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Petty and Board of Education and Dr. Triplett and Normandy Schools community. Great to see you all this evening. As Dr. Petty's mentioned, we're going to make this abbreviated as we talk about the financial position of the district through November 30th. And we'll look at a cash flow analysis here shortly. Actually, I was wanting to put another form up, but this is okay. Our financial position, as you can see on this report, we basically began the year with $16 million in savings, roughly, in our fund reserves. We've added $18.2 million through November 30th. We've spent $25.7 million through the year, November 30th, leaving us with $8.7 million in ending fund balance reserves, which equates to a 12.81% overall fund reserve balance. That's actually 5.99% in what we call our operating funds, which are our general and teachers funds, the first two funds, which is roughly twice the amount that the state mandates with regard to its 3% minimum balance. That's our financial position prior to this month of December, when we have an influx of our property tax monies. We have another report that we want to put up and look at. It's our cash flow analysis. So this cash flow analysis basically walks us through, and if we can enlarge this just a little bit, gentlemen, that would be fabulous. But again, as we, on the prior report, showed, we had roughly $3 million we have in operating funds, which again equates to about 5.99%, 6% of a fund reserve. We have expenditures that we are paying out this month. This is basically a 2-month cash flow analysis. So you can see here we have salaries and benefits that we're paying out, in addition to a stipend on December the 19th. And so we have roughly $4.2 million of expenditures this month that we are going to be paying out. On the other hand, we add back revenue. So again, this is a major month for us to receive receipts from St. Louis County, and we are going to be adding about $17.2 million in revenues that are going to be coming in. That's going to boost our overall reserves, our fund reserves in our operating funds to roughly about 31.16%. And so we see that trend. If we look into January, we see that we will be having expenditures that are calculated just under $4.2 million at $4,189,000, and associated revenues coming in of $6.5 million, which will kick our operating levy up to even a healthier 35.73%. So that, in a nutshell, is our cash flow analysis for the next 2 months. The district is going to be in a pretty solid position. And so I do want to mention that. In closing, I wanted to mention a couple of other things that the finance and business operation is accomplishing and working with you, the board, and with Dr. Triplett. We continue, and Jossie mentioned this with the Highland Fleet. We're working with Highland Fleet, and we have our 15 new electric buses that are coming in. They've been delayed, so that's what Jossie was referring to. We were expecting to receive those in February at the latest. Now we're being told that we won't be getting those buses until like June or July. So we want, Highland to provide us with a statement that we will present to you, the board, on that, because that's beginning to impact our plans for the upcoming fiscal year in our transportation planning. We have just finished up with the Human Resource Department on a new accounting system. We're going to be bringing a recommendation to you all at the next board meeting on Skyward being our provider. We continue to work on, again, with the ESSER 3 projects. We are working with our auditors to close out the audit. The auditors are going to be probably asking, and we'll be working with Dr. Triplett and Ms. Rigsby, but we may be asking for a board meeting with you all shortly this month so that we can get this audit report and opinion presented to you. It may be online, but if we can get a quorum, we're looking at maybe something around the 23rd, that Tuesday of December. But we're working with you that week to see what works. Ms. Rigsby, I saw that face you made. Okay. We have received our responses back on our healthcare broker services RFP, and we have a committee that's evaluating that. So we plan to bring you a recommendation in January. And then finally, Dr. Triplett and I will be planning to come to begin to have discussions with you around the operating levy opportunity that we have in front of us. We have a no tax increase operating levy to generate roughly about $45 million worth of funding to address any capital needs we have remaining around the district, and we do. We are doing that in tandem with the capital projects, the master planning, that process we're working with KAI through. So with that, without further ado, I'll listen to any questions you might have.
The federal program's reimbursement, ACH deposit, has that come in?
That has not come in yet. It's slated to come in actually next Friday on the 19th. And it's actually going to be higher than the 5.9. It's actually slated to be over $6 million.
So if that money has not come in, we need to know the exact current fund balance and the corresponding percentage.
Sure.
So,
and we are still hovering in the 5 to 6% range. Next week, we are going to be receiving not only that money, but we get the state foundation formula money of $1.8 million coming in. In addition to that, we're getting the property tax levy monies are going to be coming in from St. Louis County. So we can update you actually even next, Thursday or Friday when those monies come in.
do we have an actual dollar amount of actual property tax revenues that we are in receipt of currently?
We received just today $607,000. So the money is trickling in. We're supposed to receive even more this week by Friday or early next week, we're being told. So we are receiving, the state is roughly some days behind in sending us the money because of their accounting system that they're, the county.
So is that 607,000 the only property tax revenues that we're in receipt of?
That's the first receipt. So we'll be receiving probably about 2.3 million next week.
Did you receive that last week or the beginning of this week?
No, we haven't. So we were supposed to receive, our first payment was supposed, according to their calendar, to be received last Friday on 12/5.
You didn't get it to this week?
Right, so they didn't,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what I thought.
So we're running a little bit less than a week behind, days behind on getting these monies in. And St. Louis County has a lot of pressure on them right now because this is impacting all of St. Louis County school districts. They're a few days behind.
It was on the news that people weren't able to pay their personal property taxes online like they've been doing. So that's why, that's what I'm thinking is possibly the delay.
Yeah, you're right.
Director Edwards, you have a question?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do just have not really a question. I believe that the last board meeting we did ask for an update when the funds were to come in prior to this board meeting. So I just want to make a note of that it is something that I think we asked about to be received before the board meeting, but also too, I do remember about a year ago, we had the same issue as far as the audit reports and coming down to the line. I don't know what we may need to do in order to get more timely in the process of the audit reports, because it's pushing into our personal time.
Yes, and I apologize for that. I do want to mention, when the auditor was here last month, because the government, the federal government had that shutdown, when he talked about that.
That's when they pushed into
that's
the.
what
Yeah,
happened.
this
Okay.
is not a Normandy issue. It's on their end to go.
Oh, okay, this time it's on.
Yeah,
on
we'll-
them.
we'll
Okay,
take the
but
win.
I just want to make clarity that
we'll take the win.
I know it's personal time, but if I got to do whatever it is we got to do for the district, we're able to do it. I'm just saying, it seems repetitive. That's all I was just making.
Thank you.
And for the record, this report does not reflect what the board asked for. And so I'm going to go back and confer with my board colleagues and confirm again the unanimous will of the board in terms of what we're asking for. But this report does not reflect the numbers that we've discussed multiple times, and I'm not sure why we don't have it. So
When you ask for that, what do you mean exactly? What is not present on here that you are wanting?
the actual fund balance, the current fund balance, current receipts of personal property taxes, corresponding percentages, all of the things that we've discussed previously multiple times. So we're
So
gonna.
the fund balance, the exact fund balance as of November 30th was 5.99%. That's exact. That $3 million, that's exactly what the fund balance was, so is. So the report as of November 30th,
Where are those funds coming from?
they're coming from, just again, from, and I can show you this. I was trying to, because of speed, expediency, I was trying to kind of give you this information quickly, but if I can go back and through the normal report that I normally go through. So this report here, you see in the general fund, $2,998,990, plus in the general fund, plus the teacher's fund of $91,348. That's at $3,090,338. That's the 5.99%. That's exactly at November 30th what the fund reserve is in the operating funds, which is what you wanted us to provide you with.
The 599 corresponds to what dollar amount?
To the $3,090,338. And that is, if you look at the second to last line, what's called the ending fund balance for at November 30th, 2025, you'll see $2,998,990. So $2,998,990 plus the teacher's fund of $91,348 totals the $3,090,338, which is the 5.99% operating fund balance at November 30th.
Okay. Well, I'd like to continue the conversation in a more appropriate venue.
Sure. Okay. And I'm sorry for rushing. I was just trying to kind of appease you, the board.
All right, thank you, Dr. Brooks.
You're welcome.
We will go into board comments.
Items for consent.
Oh, yeah, items for consent, yeah.
Permission to speak.
Secretary Taylor.
Good evening. Item number 7.04, the policy update. I'd like to make a motion to have that be removed until our January 13th meeting.
There's a motion. Is there a second? been motioned and properly second. Madam Secretary, by roll call vote.
Before that, can we have a discussion?
Sure.
I'm just wanted to be clear. Is there a specific reason that we need to pull it off until January 13th? Because I'm not clear on what that is.
Yes, there is. There's one item that's on there that I have some questions and concerns about, and that's concerning the AI
Okay.
plan.
Okay.
So the roll call vote on the floor is to remove policies until next month. No particular order. Director Milton Roberts. I'm sorry, Director, I didn't get your. I apologize. Director Edwards.
No.
Secretary Taylor.
Yes.
Director Davis Day. Director Humphrey.
No.
Vice President Pearson.
Abstain.
And President Dr. Petty.
No.
46. Dr. Petty, we have, the noes have it, 60%.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
So move.
Can we do a roll call vote?
Second.
Madam Secretary?
Yes, sir. I'm a bit confused. We motioned to consent, and it sounded like Vice President asked for a roll. Somebody asked for a roll call
Yes.
vote. Okay. Give me 1 second, President. Gotta pull up the
The
names.
motion to approve them.
So the vote on the floor is to, for the consented items. No particular order. President Dr. Petty,
Yes.
Vice President Pearson,
Yes.
Director Humphrey,
Yes.
Director Davis Day. No. Secretary Taylor,
No.
Director Edwards,
Yes.
and Director Milton Roberts. President, the yes have it.
All right. Joint Executive Governing Board comments. We'll start with Director Davis Day.
Good evening. I would like to wish everyone a happy holidays. And I'll keep this very brief. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. As usual, I thank the parents that send their kids to our district, the teachers that support our children, the administrators that show up daily. And we appreciate and hope that this work moves forward expediently. Thank you.
Still can't get
Director
this one.
Milton Roberts, you got it?
I got it finally, sorry. I have just a couple things. Number one, I'd like to share that we had a memorial for one of our alums that we lost last month, Mr. Driver Henderson. And I wanted to extend a special thanks to Director of Operations, Evelyn Days, and her team, who were very, very helpful in getting that to happen for us, and also to Dr. Sutton, who allowed us to use a space at the Lucas Crossing Middle School. It was a very lovely service coordinated by Reverend Janelle Calloway, and we are going to be in receipt of a lot of the Normandy alumni materials from Mr. Henderson's estate. So we have his yearbook from 1955 and some things like that that perhaps we can showcase at some point at the high school. I would also like to thank everyone for coming to the meeting, and for those that are online, to thank them as well, and to wish everyone a very happy and safe holiday season, no matter what it is that you celebrate, and happy Kwanzaa to everyone as well.
Vice President Pearson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for staying with us throughout this meeting. You are appreciated. I just have a few announcements. First, this Friday, the Community Impact Network is having their award ceremony, a night to celebrate community and growth. It's at the Marriott St. Louis Grand from 6 to 10 p.m. I am nominated for one of the awards. What it is, I don't know, but we're just gonna go and have fun, okay? Saturday, LM39 Foundation is having their annual Toy for Joy giveaway at Normandy High School from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Youth Voices with Action, they're having their Pioneer Dinner this Thursday at 6 p.m. At the Showroom Event Center, 8348 Olive Boulevard in U-City, Missouri, 63132. Those tickets are still available. They also have their 2026 MLK essay open for submissions. All of the building principals, I believe, have their information. If not, we can make sure that you all get it. The submissions are due January 9th at 11:59 p.m. They're due to Dr. Brooks, our attorney, Dr. Brooks. Fifth grade, the essay, fourth through fifth grade, the essays must be 250 to 500 words. Grades 6 through 8, 700 to 1,200 words. Grades 9 through 12, 1,200 to 1,500 words. First place prize is $250. Second place prize is $175. And third place prize is $100. This weekend, I got to attend two events. One was dinner with the soup, or supper with the soup. I felt it was a good time for community engagement and staff interaction. No shop talk. It was good to see the principals dancing, the teachers, our international teachers. They are party animals. They like to dance. They love music, and I love to see it. I love to see people enjoy themselves because life is hard. The second event was the Joy in Jazz to celebrate Dr. Bird and other educators in the St. Louis community. Thankful to them because being an educator is something that is not for the weak. Board elections is the candidate form. Well, the candidates election is open. Filing is open December 9th through December 31st. The 31st, they're open to 5 p.m., but they're open from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. But you might want to call them, or you might want to call them to check times when it comes to the weather. Two more things, and they're really short. I don't know who it's for, but I'm going to just say it's for all of us. Don't try to fit in. Stand out and shine. Great things happen when you let yourself lead the line. Have a great holiday. Stay warm. Check on your neighbors. Make sure the kids are reading. Even if they got to read the signs, let them read the holiday cards that everybody is sending to your mailbox at the time. And thank you all again for staying with us this evening.
Secretary Taylor.
Good evening, and just like to say thank you all for coming to these board meetings. They have been so productive, informative, and we can see that the board is really collaborating, and we are making things happen, Superintendent. And so we're moving forward. Holiday season is coming up, and we know that our children will be out of school. I'm sure they'll be enjoying their times, and we want you all to enjoy your times. Enjoy your times with your family and your friends, and as Director Pearson said, if you have some elderly neighbors, if the weather gets bad, check on them. Make sure that everybody is okay. And just want to say, wish you a happy holidays, Merry Christmas. Her Director Milton Roberts, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever it is that you celebrate. And just have a safe time and be safe out there.
Director Edwards.
Thank you, President Petty. Good evening, everyone. December started off, for the last month of the year, December started off with a bang, with a huge snowstorm. And that was interesting. I got stuck over on Hanley trying to pick up the kids early from school. So I want to shout out to all the parents that trucked through that snow and that traffic trying to make sure all the kids got home safe before it got worse than what it already was. So shout out to the parents. Secondly, I attended the PLC, Professional Learning Community. Is that what it's called? PLC Professional. Hosted over at Ladue Middle School by none other than the miraculous Miss Keisha Lee. And had an opportunity to speak with other board directors about things that they do in their district and how we can possibly implement some of those things here in the Normandy School District. I'll chat with you, Dr. Triplett, about some. Nothing major. The last thing I would like to say is I enjoyed the time at the supper with the soup. It was a great way to reaffirm relationships. It's always good to do that. So I appreciate you thinking outside the box and finding another way that we can stay connected and kind of ground ourselves and decompress from the hard work that we do every day. So thanks again. And lastly, I would like to end with every step, every score, every student is our pathway to points. So we can keep that at the forefront of our mind, that's where we're going. That is it. Good night.
Director Humphrey.
Well, first of all, thank you to everyone that's in attendance. Thank you, Dr. Triplett, for the report that you made tonight, as well as all of the reports from the various cabinet members. And a special thank you to my colleagues for leaning in on the subject of academics, because I think the only way that you get water to boil is you have to turn the fire up. And so at this point, the superintendent says we have a sense of urgency, so we got to get the water boiling. So every time we have an opportunity to discuss academics, we need to lean into it so that we come away with the best possible outcomes. Again, thank you very much for all the contributions. Dr. Triplett as well. I attended Supper with the Soup, and I thought it was a very well-organized event, and I think everyone that was there, had a great time. So once again, thank you for hosting that event. And I just think, once again, I thank all of my colleagues because this is the board that's going to make the difference. And, I'm not going to start crying.
You better not.
I'm going to stop because no, are we going back into executive session after this? Okay. All right, well, at this point, I've said all I need to say.
Dr. Triplett.
It's on you, Doc Petty.
Dr. Triplett.
I just want to leave everybody with this to really draw some red hotness, some urgency to it. Everybody in this next year, if the district doesn't move the way it should, everybody in here could do something else. But who's going to care for our babies? I want you to take that and everybody sleep on that, because this is not about not one grown person in this room, not one grown person in the 24-1 community, not one grown person in the district. It's about those 2,500 plus babies, and let's make it about them.
Thank y'all for coming out. Good night. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Hey, board president, you need to make sure, so because you all still have some matters to discuss, adjourn to executive session pursuant to RSMO 620 point, whatever that thing is.
I'll entertain that motion.
What he said.
It's been moved.
RSMO 620.021.3.
Roll call vote, Madam Secretary.
Yes, sir. The vote on the floor is to adjourn to executive session, no particular order. President Dr. Petty,
Yes.
Vice President Pearson,
Yes.
Director Humphrey,
Yes.
Director Davis Day. Yes. Secretary Taylor.
Yes.
Director Edwards.
Yes.
And Director Bureau